All right, y'all. Welcome to the Lower Chesapeake Bay Fishing Report, part of the Great Days Outdoors podcast network. I'm your host, Luke Barton, and each week we'll be talking with expert charter guides and subject matter experts about what's happening in our local waters. On this show, we advocate for sustainable fishing practices aimed at keeping this amazing fishery healthy and thriving for generations to come. As the fishing season adjusts to cooler temps, some target species are just heating up. So buckle up for another great episode. Let's jump in and find out what's been biting. Hooked on fishing? Then you're part of the local community that Long Bay Point Bait and Tackle cares about serving and giving back to, providing you with the right selection for each season's target species. They're your one-stop shop to gear up with the best bait, tackle, and insider tips to catch your next trophy fish. You can fuel up right out front on the water and then chat with the crew inside for hot tips on where they're biting. So swing by today. Long Bay Point Bait and Tackle, where your fishing adventures start and finish with your trophy catch on their scales. Listen up. AFTCO has a promotional gift for all Great Days Outdoors Podcast Network listeners. They're now offering a camo sunglasses cleaner cloth with any purchase of AFTCO products. For those cold, wet, or windy days, I especially enjoy my weatherproof fabric barricade jacket, as well as my Helm insulated fishing gloves. All you got to do to get your coupon code is text LCBFR to 779-345-2918. You'll get subscribed to our email list, and we'll send you the promo code via email. All right, y'all. Welcome to the Lower Chesapeake Bay Fishing Report, part of the Great Days Outdoors podcast network. I'm your host, Luke Barton, and each week we'll be talking with expert charter guides and subject matter experts about what's happening in our local waters. On this show, we advocate for sustainable fishing practices aimed at keeping this amazing fishery healthy and thriving for generations to come. As the fishing season adjusts to cooler temps, some target species are just heating up. So buckle up for another great episode. Let's jump in and find out what's been biting. All right, you guys, welcome to this week's show, and I am so excited for this report. We are welcoming back a dear friend of the show, Captain Bill Pappas aboard Plain Hooky Charters. And the reason I'm so excited for this report is because, you know, the belle of the ball right now is the bluefin tuna, which is right here off the coast of Virginia Beach. And we are so excited because Captain Bill has had a crazy run this week, going 3 for 3 days in a row, catching jumbo bluefin tuna. Welcome to the show, Captain Bill. How you feeling this morning?
We are great over here, man. Thanks for the call, man. Thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to talk to you. But I mean, goodness, you've got to be completely gassed 3 days in a row up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and getting out there in the gray light. I mean, how are you even awake right now?
And you just run off energy, man. That's all we can do is plug in and recharge our battery. So I get a day-to-day charge up, and I'll be back at it the next day.
Heck yeah.
Love this stuff, you know. We just love it.
I mean, it's like the Super Bowl of fishing to go out there and target these jumbos. So I want to know everything, man. Like, how in the world do you go 3 for 3 like that? I mean, we talked several weeks ago about how much you wanted to get out there and be successful and how hard it is to be successful. And then to do 3 for 3 is just crazy. So, you know, talk us through the strategy, talk us through these 3, you know, giant hookups. Like, what happened?
All right. Well, we had been out there, like I said, for a bunch of weeks fishing for them, and we've had a bites, and we've had fish to the boat we released at a certain time, and then we made sure we called every person we needed to call to make sure we were legit to go commercial. We had our $7,500 worth of equipment. We have our $5,000 lifeboat that holds 8 people with the flares, the smoke, the food supply. It's made for the offshore. It's a Solus A. You gotta have your immersion suits, your $500 each immersion suits with your names written on them in marker. You got to have your offshore life jackets. You got to have your, I already said flares, I'm sure. You got to have hand flares and shooting flares. You also have to have a giant ring on this thing. It's a Coast Guard approved ring that gets thrown with a 60-foot rope, and it's got to have your boat name on it. So when you see us out there doing it, you know, you got to imagine we spent a lot of money to be where we're at to do what we do. And then we offer a great experience. You know, I mean, you spend $2,600 for a charter or $3,000 to go offshore for tuna, 75 miles, 12 hours. But you only have to spend $1,500 and you can go inshore. And you get it's like a lottery. It's like a chance. You get a chance either catching a gigantic fish of a lifetime, which either way would have had to been let go because of the way the laws are set up. You can only keep one under 73 recreational. Anything over 73 must be sold commercially if they have the license. So either way, a fish is going to die on these trips. So it's like a lottery. There's a 220-pound fish with their name on it, 72.5 inches waiting to be split up at the top. And there have been plenty of those caught. And there's been people looking for their slot fish. You know, most times you fish as a fisherman, you want the biggest fish you can catch. Mm-hmm. And it's tough because you got to look for the biggest legal one you can keep as a guy, and you're out there just targeting that medium size, perfectly filletable and sushiable fish. So
Mm,
it's a battle and a grind out there. But once you got your stuff and you're legit, you get a few guys out there and they get a chance, man. So here we go. I'll tell you, we
that's
shot out
cool.
there. We shot out there Monday. We had our guests with us. They all were pumped, man. We had a good hookup, a good fight down low, and we bear down. Now Russ, first mate Russ is awesome, man. He's all totally abreast of what's going on. He's pulling these guys line, and we're hand pulling it in like you see in the TV shows. Everybody gets a turn. There's 6 guys cranking until their arms wear out. Then they got another guy in there. They get like 2 and 3 turns each. So we're circling these fish and circling these fish, and our fish on Monday. We're gonna post the video here soon, but he was staying low. He just did not want to come up to the top. So I just took an executive decision and threw that thing like 20 feet deep in the water and stabbed him underwater real deep. And then he popped up to the side with that thing sticking right out of the side of him. And man, is like I was telling you with the swordfish, it's one of the greatest feelings when you know that thing stuck.
Wow.
And once we did that, Russ leadered him over a little more, and we threw some gas right in his face. He didn't bother with a tail rope or anything. Just pulled his face out of the water.
Sheesh.
Reverse drowned him, man. The rest was history for that first day, man. It was a great fish and great time, man. I couldn't believe it. Called my family down to come see. You're stoked on these kind of things. It's cool to
Oh
see everybody
yeah.
together.
That's
And
crazy.
and then we went out the next day, and I was like, you know what, man? I was already telling groups and charters. I was like, hey, there's 20 boats out here, and there's 5 people bringing back fish. You know what I mean? So there's gonna be a chance. There's 40 boats. You might have some more fish, but there's
Hmm.
days where there's more. There's 10 fish caught. There's some days there's less fish caught. So to be a lucky boat is, statistically speaking, it's pretty cool. It's like lucky. Once I got that one, yeah, there's not that there's not a chance to get one Tuesday. So I know what speeds I've been doing. I know what I've been looking for on the water. I know exactly what I'm looking for on the machine. And we call it in the fishing thing, we call it dialed in. So
Yep.
I was getting that feel of where I wanted to be. The next morning I shot out and saw a friend out there. I made a video the day before on the front of my boat, and I was sticking arms out like
The Titanic. Yeah.
like that. And I was just being funny, like, no, I'll never let you go, Jack. And I was like, well, I had one of my funnest videos I made. And the next morning I had a fellow angler, captain of mine. He called me DiCaprio. It was funny. He had me rolling in the morning. He's
Oh,
like, hey,
that's great.
DiCaprio. And I didn't answer. He called back, playing hooky. And I was like,
Oh,
okay.
that's great.
It was a funny nickname. I give him credit on that. It was a good one, man, because of that. So we got out there, and we saw him coming towards us, and he hooked up where we were fishing the day before, which is a good technique. You got a good area, good friends. So you go around and you catch one. So we watched him do good, got him, and then we went back, not near his area, not near anybody else. We went back to where area we trusted, and eventually it developed when the fog cleared. We got swamped on Tuesday with some killer fog, like 2 or 3 hours.
That's right. It was crazy, crazy
Dude, it
thick
was so
fog.
bad. I have some good radar, so I called over to Kenny Mills on Sea Shift, and I said, "Hey, Kenny, are you traveling southeast right now?" He's like, "Yep." And I was like, "I got you on radar. You're 0.3 away."
That's
And he's like,
cool.
really, it spooked him. So he's like, all right, I'm going east. And I was like, don't worry, I'm on autopilot ahead, hold my course. And I was just, all you do is watch radar, find boats, and try to find people. And they started pushing apart and pushing away from us. And eventually the fog broke, and I ran back upstairs and said, guys, we're going to get them. And, the rest was history. That day we ended up hooking another giant one. And the second day, man, that fish was really tough, man, getting him over to the boat. But, yeah, it's weird how they all blend in. Thought we had a few harpoon shots on them from up top and stuff. And you finally get over, you get a poon in them again, and the crew goes nuts, man. It's an exhilarating feeling, You can't match that feeling of everybody screaming and being stoked we get that thing and get them all tail roped and up
Oh,
and over
heck
the
no.
side. You get 5 guys on 3 gaffs, and you're 1, 2, 3 over the side. It's funny watching ripping these big fish over the side, and everybody when it slides its way down to the deck, it's just amazement. It's just
Oh, yeah.
I walk around and individually hug everybody, man, because it's an experience, man. You're out there telling yourself sometimes. I'll be honest with you, man. I'm like, you're so stressed out during the fight. You're so stressed out during the week. You're so stressed out when you get on land about this whole thing. It's like a tuna fever that runs through you.
Yeah.
You get this bluefin fever, and then you're out there, and you got halfway through this fight, and anything could happen. It's a fight. They can pull the hook, break the hook, break the line.
Yep.
Somebody can throw the rod in the water. I mean, there's a million different things that happen. And it's so stressful. You even tell yourself, you're like, man, I hope a shark comes up and eat this sucker and just calls it a day. I
That
said
way
that
it's
to the
like,
guys. They
hey,
were
there's
laughing at me yesterday, but that was after 3 straight days. I was beat. I was like, shark him.
yeah, yeah. Because then
But,
it's like not your fault. You're like, oh, we got sharked. Nothing I could have done about that. A missed poon shot or like,
oh my
breaking the
God.
line with a gaff. You're like, what did I do? But I'm just thinking about, you talk about that first shot with the harpoon from 20
Yeah.
feet below. I mean,
Yeah.
making an executive decision like that, like What do you think your heart rate was when you threw that harpoon? I mean, you got
Oh,
to.
to be honest, it was just like being behind a scope and breathing out, bro. My heart rate was low.
Yeah.
I was I
Yeah.
was like, I felt like I was like, I told them afterwards, like, dude, I was doing that for Sparta. This is for Sparta, and you know what I mean? Like, I was relaxed, and right at that moment, it was like I could have hit the main line and everything, but I needed it, man. My mate was working real hard through the whole fight and needed me to hit him, so I hit him. Don't get me wrong. The next day, I missed twice deep because it wasn't coming up again, and I missed twice. And you go back and reload, and you
Oh,
get him on the
dude.
third one, and you're like, thank God it got him. But it was just so deep, it's such an angle, and you're anyway.
That's
We
insane.
Yeah, we had some challenges on that one, but yeah, that was crazy. So yeah, yesterday's I got a video I'm gonna post down the road, but we ended up when I hit him, we got into the boat, but we had a gaff. He came a little bit where the tail came for the gaff. And on the show, it's all gaff in the tail. Just put a little easy rope on him. This fish went nuts when we put that thing in his tail. We must have hit a main vein or artery because it was a red, white, and blue art show, bro. He threw water with the
Oh my
tail.
gosh.
He slung that tail into us and beat us all up, and soaked the whole boat. And then look, because my mate Ed he came with us yesterday. He was thinking we pull his power source, his motor out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, we did the other way the other day. We got him in the face and ripped his lungs out of the water and drowned him, reverse drowned him. Anyway, so
Yeah.
picture this. This thing is flipping all over the place. There's another guy holding the gaff, and while the gaff's rustling around, it punches him right in the face. Ed's like, I mean, it was just chaos with this fish, man. Gaffs were coming out. We were putting another gaff in, another gaff in. I mean, intensity, man. There was f words going everywhere. Get another effing gaff, get up, and you tell the guys you love them, you mean it. But it's a passionate moment, man. You're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now look, if you have soft skin and you're an easy cush life kind of guy, you've never been cussed at or yelled at, or you're just not ready for that. I mean, it's not what you want on a fishing trip, but
Right.
there's things
Right.
that happen that you have to get on, and you either step up or step back, man. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean. And if you're gonna have that many feelings, please leave them on land. Just leave them on land with you. Just
Yeah. You might be
you
more of like a nature
land.
trail guy, not a
Yeah,
bluefin tuna trip guy.
yeah. This is intense stuff. We're fighting an animal that could, possibly pull the harpoon right into the props and strand us here. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that can happen out there, and it's
Oh,
also an exhilarating fish to get in the boat. And there's that feeling of accomplishment that you really are looking for out there. And when you're going all these days without catching them, man, it gets to you. And
oh yeah.
last year we had some gentlemen, you know, want to say things on Facebook and get all, you know what they do. And I swear I never, I get credit time to time for not responding, but I just take little chips of wood they make every time they put another little chip, man. I take that
Mm-hmm.
chip and put it on my shoulder, and then I put it in my fire, and then I let that
Yeah.
burn my fire, and I use that as fuel. And I
Yep.
use it like Haterade. It's like I get a swill of their stuff, and I'm like, I'm ready to work even harder
Yep.
and more than I can. But doesn't mean you're going to catch a fish. It ends up meaning that you stay out there long enough, you believe in what you believe, and hopefully it works out. Because I'm not, I'm trust me. We got lucky. I'm thankful. I thank God. I covered these fish's eyes. I thank the fish. I thank them for being on the boat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like a ceremonial thing. This is not just bang, 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 caveman style. We did it. I mean, we actually appreciate where we're at.
Yeah.
We appreciate being able to be out there. We appreciate this whole experience. And even the haters, dude, they're part of my experience. They're part of
Yep.
life, man. And
Yep.
I'm just gonna go ahead and starve them for a few more days. I'm sorry the haters got no food, but we're feeding families, man. And we're gonna keep the guys that support us, keep them happy, and we're just gonna ride this nice and quietly and humbly like we should, man. I mean, it's
Amen to that. Amen to
but
that.
hey, we don't get them again. That's what happens. We get them again. Oh my God, it's gonna be chaos.
Oh yeah. I mean, what's cool, like you guys really approach this with such a sense of like honor and respect for the fishery, and you put in the work, you put in the huge investment to be able to commercially and legally harvest. You're giving people an opportunity to go experience that cranking on a huge fish. I want to know a couple of things. So, how many pounds did these fish end up weighing? You caught three of them. What were the weights on each?
Thank you for asking that. Because honestly, I didn't post that much. I just said we got fish. I didn't want to be like bragging. We got a big fish. We got this fish or any fish, just because I look at it as my stunt doubles out there. Sometimes not even me. Just I keep it quiet, keep it low, just keep it moving. But
Yeah.
here's the answer. The answer was the first day was a 300-pounder, and when we got the head off, the guts out, and all the other stuff came down to like I think 240 was the
Hmm.
core. So you
Yeah.
got a 300, you got a 240 core. The next day we estimated around 360. And then when we cord it out, because what we're doing on the water, I'll stop and give you a little quick here. I got a saw there. I got a sawzall. I'm zapping these things faces off. I'm ripping all the lungs out. I'm pulling out. We're delivering the baby of all the guts and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
pour that
Getting
over.
the
It's a
ice in
lot of,
there.
and then we cover them with ice inside there. We pack all the ice in there, pack them in the tuna bag, pack the ice on them, put the sheets of paper on them if we need it, and then off we go. Because the second fish didn't fit in the bag. We had the second day fit really in the bag. There, he's hanging out. But the second day was 360, and we ended up coring that one out at 288.
Okay.
So we got 288 on that one. And the third day we had that was yesterday. We had a 270 core, which is probably a 345, right around 345. So
Man,
it
that's
was
awesome.
300 to 360, 345, a 240, 288, and a 270, which is going to put us at 802 pounds going to Boston.
Dang, man, that's incredible. So talking about going to Boston, so we've all watched Wicked Tuna, and I got to say it was so cool to see Captain Dave Marciano comment on your post and congratulate you on an incredible catch, man. That's awesome to know that those guys up there from Wicked Tuna are keeping eyeballs on what's happening down here in Virginia Beach. But what's that process like? So you bring it, we've watched it on Wicked Tuna, like. How realistic is that? Does it go exactly the same way? Is it a little different? What's the price per pound? Like, how does all that work out?
All right. Well, you get an estimate of around what they're paying first. That's what you want to do, and then you take the best quality care of your fish you can. You bleed it. We bled our fish, every one of them too.
Okay.
To top quality. Hopefully they start to notice that when the fish come from us, that there's a different quality. I mean, I'm sure there's guys trying to do the same exact things. They're guys way better than us. I guarantee it. That's just
Yeah.
life. But we're doing our best, and we're gonna. And when we send these fish off, they put them. The guys at Rudy are awesome, and Dave and Kev. They'll unload them for us, and then they'll cut the head off right there, and then they'll weigh it and give us the core. We sign the paper. We put the official tag in them. These things get closed tags. There's a tag number for every fish. Every single fish has to be reported every trip, and we report those. And then what they do is they put in this frozen trailer
Okay.
then they freeze them, and then they take them to Boston. And then a couple days after we catch them, they're there in days. They're there quick. And then like every day, the guy trucks them up there. And then as soon as they get there, we get a day's notice, and they're going to go ahead and grade them in the market. We're going to get a grade on our fish.
Okay.
Now, I'll be honest, the first fish, the Monday's fish, man, I threw that thing so deep in the water, I hit him right in the dead center of the side of that fish, like broadsided him. And when it hit him, man, it had like a 9 foot to 10 foot. I mean, it was a huge red blood streak just swimming out of that fish because it impaled him. And then I yoked him all up and stuff like that. But when we were pulling him up by the rope and the thing, getting him up, that thing was in the side. It moved probably like, I'm going to give you like maybe 5 inches
Mm-hmm.
top. That's how much play it had coming. So it ruined that piece, that right there, that side. But, I mean, I know that's how people get these fish a lot. So I'm sure they're seeing that. And the other, it might have bled them better, it might be worth more. I don't think so. I think it's
Yeah.
going to be our value of all our fish because of that move right there. The other one, the second one, second day, it was a shallow harpoon shot. And I think the dart, it stayed with the shaft, so we kind of just controlled him by the shaft on that one. So that was going to be that's going to be the best quality one, I think.
Clean one, yeah.
And what I'm hearing is also that, and the yesterday's the poon shot it was fine. It didn't go deep yesterday. It just stayed on the skin. We got him over, and the gaff shots were all in the tail, so we should be good on that. And one belly shot with the gaff. So
Okay.
I think we're good on that one. A couple of head shots, but they don't. Those are gone when the charter gets the head. They can get some steaks out of the head and stuff at the end. Or they can. But what I was going to tell you was the market, the grade per pound. There's a certain amount per pound. There's more or less. It could be 5 to 9 a pound. It could be more or less. You never know.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. I have one more thing I wanted to tell you about these. We don't get paid for a couple weeks for it, so we have no idea.
Okay, so you wait for them to go up and get graded. So you've got like about 150 pounds of whole fish going up. They'll grade it. Do you get paid on the whole poundage, or do they pay after they've loined it out?
No, you get paid for the pounds now. Once they take the
Okay.
head off, because they're pulling the, there's a little extra tail in there. Is about all.
Okay, got it. Yeah, it's cool to just kind of understand that process. So we'll have to wait for a future report to find out what the actual price per
Yeah.
pound was and kind of compare that to what we see on like the Wicked Tuna show, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely not putting the straw in there, the metal straw, and pulling out the core sample, putting it on the table, and giving us, hey, I don't think it'll be like $8 per pound. No, you're getting $14. You get
Yeah.
$14 this time, and you know how they, We're big fans of the show. We're big
Oh
fans.
yeah, we love to sit there and like everyone's like guessing what the price per pound is going to be, and then you guess 15, and you're the hero or whatever. I want to go back in time though. So when that video comes out of you harpooning it, I've got this image in my. We need to put the soundbite over it. That's like, my name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, and then boom, you're hitting it with the thing. But going 3 days in a row and catching three fish in a row, you talk about like getting in the zone. Like when we've been on the golf course before, like all of a sudden you just find like this, like you're in, what's the word? A flow state almost, where you're just dialed. Like, what was it? If you had to put your finger on one thing, like, was it your speed? Was it how far back you had your lures? Like, what would you say was like the one or two things that was most impactful to getting tight and successful 3 days in a row?
All right, it's gonna be, it's obviously gonna be some location's gonna help, but I'm gonna tell you what, I focus, and it doesn't matter if it's anywhere I do, and you just know that you could be in a spot. It's two things mainly. It's mainly your man. For me, it's gut feeling, man. I ain't gonna lie. It's just this crazy feeling. Like the other day, I was like, we gotta leave. I didn't feel it where we were at all. I was like, pick them up, and you don't want to bring in those lines from that far away,
Yeah.
but gut feeling to pick up and make a run. We ran to somewhere, felt it, and looked at I was up top. I was looking at birds, and I've had the feeling, started getting the vibe, and that takes a while to develop and trust. It's like
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
watching it hit the ground, but over time, you tell yourself, "Hey, let's catch that," and you develop that reflex. And it's
Hmm.
just out there, man. You develop, and you almost have to trust yourself. And you gotta separate. This is really intricate here. You gotta separate your mind and your gut. Okay, there's a gut feeling, and there's what you think. Okay, there's two
Yep.
different. Your thinking is going to be your mind telling you the science, the math, and the numbers, and all these other things. They're going to tell
Mm.
you computing wise, but your gut's going to give you that feeling of where you're at. And when it doesn't feel right, and for me, over the years, and there was this way before I was a charter captain, it was just like, oh, guys, I'm getting the feeling. Here it comes. Like, we're about to get a bite here. There's other times, including Togging especially. I'm like, I'm not feeling it. Like
Yeah.
we are not getting a bite. Like I had that, like I'm not feeling it. Like I'll get out there and fish and go through the motions.
Yeah.
Not on charters, but back in the day, I just knew we weren't gonna. And they're, as the fish aren't biting. I don't know what it is, but the gut ain't on. The gut says go. I go like, we got to leave, guys. Gut says go. I call it. But then here's the tip. What you really wanted was the tip. Everyone's got a different gut. So I was just giving you some cosmic shit stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
That's
but
fine.
but the real point is man, is my thing. I think would help other people to stay consistent in their mind or have a trust their gut more is I like to use the speed as a thing, man. I like to figure out a number of speed I want to go, and each turn and each current and each time of day is going to have a different speed, man. If you're just turning and
Uh,
speed's going to stay the same because you set it at one direction, it's not. As soon as you turn, current, wind, all that, I keep adjusting and taking fast turns. You take a bigger turn, you want to make a sharper turn to keep your lines up. Everybody knows these things, but I'm just bringing them out there for the guys listening to think this is cool. I guess,
yeah.
or they learn something or something off of us, which is I don't mind sharing and teaching. We had a good post today about a guy wanting to learn everything, doesn't know what to do, and one guy was like, what you need to do is book a trip with a charter captain. He said, he might have
Yep.
said, all right. He was, and then somebody hopped on there, and he was like, what you need to do is book because I went out with captain. I didn't know how to swordfish, and I booked
I saw
captain.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Matt, and he was like saying that he paid to learn, and he went out there and learned, and it gave him a super big advantage because when he went down to Florida to start his first drop ever, he had a 260 pounder.
Boom.
You know, so I was proud of him, proud of it all, and proud that I helped teach him that and show him that.
Yeah.
I was, and there's questions along the way that there's, you want to keep to yourself of numbers mostly, but honestly, if somebody's paid to be out there and they want to pick my brain a little bit, I'll
Yeah.
give them stuff and I can figure out their level sometimes, or maybe they're better than me and try to help them out
Yeah.
with maybe give them a little pointer in the right direction for the next thing they need because they're just missing that one little thing is you can see that aha moment and you're like cool, man. And then they send you pics and it's almost like giving somebody a recipe, man. It's like,
Yeah.
here, cook
Yeah.
it like this, tell me what you think, and they're
Yep.
like, we loved it.
You still got
So
to follow the instructions, though. That's for sure. And one thing I'm curious about, like talking about different speeds for different times of day or different currents, what would you say is that like a gut feeling when you're like, okay, I've got the right speed? Like, are you thinking about how those baits are swimming in the water, or are you thinking about how far back from the boat they are to keep, maybe the tunas don't like the sound of the boat? Like, what's your gut feeling when you're like, okay, I'm at the right speed? Like, what information did you digest to make you go, okay, this feels good?
all right, well, I'm gonna mix you up now because I actually vary my speed sometimes. I actually will slow my lures down and pull them lower if I think there's something down on the bottom.
Okay.
All
That makes
right.
sense.
I'll
Yeah.
pull 3.5, 4.40. I'll slow her down just to put them down there real quick, and then I'll get it back to where it needs to be. And I don't know, you just once you got your speed where you want it.
Yeah. Then you're just feeling it. So like to establish some like speeds, like what would you call like your average trolling speed?
I like anywhere 4.5 to 5.5 in there.
Okay.
There's other boats that are doing 6 and stuff, and when you're looking for the schoolie sized, you're looking
Yeah.
for that schoolie sized fish. I've heard a lot of those getting bit on the meat. For
Hmm.
example, the ballyhoo more, and
Yeah.
so yeah, that would be a great speed to have.
And so then
I
like
think
the slower end of that would be more like your 3.35 range if you're wanting to drop those baits down a little bit.
I got a buddy, and I'll tell you, he's my buddy James. He caught 2 for 2. He did an hour and probably 3/4 of an hour combined for 2 days and went back to back. I think it was 2 days in a row or 2 trips in a row, whatever it was. It was 2 trips in a row, and he did it at 3.5 with 2 rods out.
Okay. Got
Okay,
it.
he's running 2 rods and he's doing 3.5, just doing his thing. And maybe I shouldn't have told his secret, but that's what he liked to do. That's what he was doing.
Yeah.
So I just know that it's I don't know. It's just bluefin fishing, man. It's a tough fishery, man.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. And then like this is like really rudimentary stuff, but it's important stuff. What do you typically preset your drags at before you head out for the day in terms of your pounds, like with the little meter thing where you're pulling it down? What do you like to have them set at to get started with?
I don't know, man. I just go down there and give it him full, and I show the mate where I want it, and he does it, and then they keep it there. And it's kind of like I don't know how to, I can explain it in fishing terms where if you're fishing for yellowfin and you pull that line out where you think the drag is supposed to be, we'll double that for bluefin, put it a lot harder because they're
Okay.
just the bite's going to be a good run. And then at a certain point during the fight, I like to keep the drag loose just in case they want to make a few more runs. And
Hmm.
eventually, you got to bear down on them. You got to get a little more and more. And then when you get closer, you can loosen up on bigger runs. And you kind of want to feel the fish on what he's doing and how much energy he has. When he finally break his will, we call it,
Yeah.
pull his head around and turn him, but he'll recharge and get some more energy on you before
Yeah.
you know.
They're so strong. I mean, my memory of that one that I was hooked into last year, it was just an unbelievable amount of force going in the opposite direction of me. I mean, I don't even know how to verbally describe how powerful these animals are.
I hear you, man. I got to go down there and we're constantly rigging our boats, man. That's the hardest part is you take spend like Russ Moreau has been spending half days, 3/4 of days on the off days, and even after the trips, he's there till like midnight, getting things right and getting it where he wants it, man. And he's
Yeah.
just it's an amazing guy, and he's such a hard worker for this company, and he believes in it like I do,
Yeah.
and it really helps. You have people even when you're at home and you're fishing, you know how much prep it takes the day before and all
Oh,
those things.
yeah. It's
It's a
insane.
lot. It's a lot, man. It's a lot involved, like you said, bud.
It's insane. And so we've got speed kind of established. I think everybody that's going for these things is kind of doing a myriad of lures, whether that's your Joe Shoots with some ballyhoo or some mojos or some NLBNs or whatever the case. So there's lots of options out there that these things will hit. And then in terms of like your desired water temperature, are you paying much attention to that at all? Or are you just more so getting out there in the area and looking for birds and bait working?
Man, I gotta admit, I'm out there a lot, so I kind of know where the water temperatures are anyway by driving so far so many times. But
Yeah.
it really for me on the bluefin fishing, it's no, it doesn't matter. I mean,
Okay.
they're biting. You can record it after, like they bit in this temperature, yay, you know what I mean? But
Hmm.
if they're here, they're getting bites. Boats are getting bites. We're going. That's how people fish, man. We're gonna go out there and fish while there's fish.
Yep. And last question for you. When you're out there, you take your whatever 8 hours you're out there. Would you say that your eyeballs are spending more time looking at things out in front of you or looking at your screen?
Well, if anybody listens to this, which I don't, hopefully they do or don't, but this is a huge tip, man, because the first 2 weeks of this season, man, it was nothing but fish flying out of the water, buddy. They were flying out everywhere. We got like a 20,000 views on just some fish flying out of the water with a Christmas song playing. and just for weeks it was fish are flying, we're getting bites, fish are flying, we're getting bites. So people want to go see where the fish are flying, and guess what? They're not flying anymore.
Mm,
A lot less fish popping. They're here and there, and then even when you see them here and there, doesn't mean they're biting there, but it means they're there. So you got to trust that they're there, not leave there. It's a whole bunch of decisions your brain, as a captain, even as a crew, is going to put through your heads that you might want to turn, you might want to move, you might want to do something else. But sometimes you just stick, like I said earlier, stick to your gut and get your lines running straight, believe in your spread, and
boom. It
stay where the
happens.
fish are. Hopefully, feel like the fish are there, feel like they're not. Just don't be afraid. I hate to say it, but just don't be afraid to make a move, man.
Yeah.
That's turn the whole. It was just make a move, and carve your own groove pretty much. Cause I mean, we got a spot I'm trusting and I've been using it, and it's going to blow out and be gone and move somewhere else. And hopefully I can find that. But if not, other boats will. And hope good luck for them. And I want them to get them too.
That's awesome. Well, man, it's so cool to hear that Christmas came early for you. For
Yeah.
our listeners out there, we love hearing the Captain Bill stories, and I loved the DiCaprio video of you up on the bow and just having so much fun doing it. It's so clear your passion for what you do, man. It's just awesome. So I'm just curious, what does Captain Bill want for Christmas? What's on the Christmas list with? What's on the wish list?
Oh, buddy, you're gonna get a good one, man. Here's what I want, and my son's right here. He knows I'm gonna tell the truth. So that's all I do. I want my son to shampoo my carpets. I want my daughter to take my curtains down in my eagle room and wash them, and I want her to dust the living room. I don't want him to buy me anything. I don't want anything else. I just want him to just help me out, man. Just give me a little help, man.
I love it, man. So it sounds like you're a acts of service guy. Like that's your love language. Help a brother out.
Man, hey, you want to speak love language? Grab a shovel. You want to speak a love language? Grab a broom. Grab a dang. That's my love. That's my language, man.
Or here you go. Here you go. Grab a fillet knife after a sea bass trip.
Grab a brush, grab a rag, and start exactly. Grab another knife with a sea bass. Just I like cutting sea bass, but yeah, it's just I'm a work guy.
That's awesome. And you got your son LB there right now?
Yeah, man, he just got back from college, man. I'm gonna try to get him out there Friday and give him a shot at a fish, hopefully.
Awesome, man. Well, I hope you guys come tight on one. I can't think of a better father-son moment than crushing a jumbo bluefin together. We wish you an awesome trip, and if we don't talk to you before, have a very Merry Christmas.
You too, buddy, man. It was great talking with you this morning, man.
Absolutely.
Great,
But
happy holidays too.
before we end, I want to know, for those that are listening, they're like, I want that lottery ticket. I want to get out there and get a chance to get tight. What's the best way for them to contact you on Playing Hooky and get booked and get hooked?
Well, guys, I'm thinking there's maybe 3 more weeks of this, if that, maybe a couple weeks into January, and it's all getting packed up. So you're welcome to book a trip, or you can hop on a walk on, but it's going to be at playinhookeycharters.com. It's PLAYINHOOKEY charters.com. And you can call me at 757-619-3530. And man, you can hit us up on Facebook and Messenger and all that stuff, and we'll get you out there and do our best.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you, Captain Bill. We look forward to seeing some pictures and videos, and we'll be talking with you real soon.
Thanks again, buddy.
Yeah, man. All right, y'all stick around for a word from our sponsors that bring these great reports like that to you free each week, and we'll be back with you real soon. Hilton's Offshore Charts. The days of heading out and blindly looking for good fishing areas are pretty much over. Don't waste time and money on fuel searching for fish. You need the most recent, highest resolution images to not only know where to go, but where not to go. The knowledge provided by today's technology is critical when planning an offshore fishing trip. So make the choice that professional captains all over the East Coast make and choose Hilton's Real-Time Navigator. The easy-to-use interface and excellent customer service will have you on the fish every time you go. Check them out at hiltonsoffshore.com. That's hiltonsoffshore.com. All right, y'all. Well, we're going to start talking about some striped bass because if you've been paying attention to the social media, it's just starting to heat up. In fact, I got a call from Captain C.L. Marshall up out of Tangier Sound Charters saying, "Hey, Captain Luke, I think I'm hearing about some striper down your way." So I want to welcome back to the show Captain Caleb Underwood with Naughty Dog Charters, as well as Captain Eric Myers with Heads and Tails. Welcome back, guys. How y'all doing?
We're doing good.
Doing great.
Awesome, man. I'm excited to talk to you about this. This is one of those like special things about the Chesapeake Bay that, people from all around come to check out the striped bass because obviously we get the cool, schoolies on like the west side of the bay, but on that eastern side of the bay, those trophies come swimming through. Well, Captain Caleb, tell us a little bit about what you guys have been doing on some of your recent striped bass trips. What you've been seeing?
Well, the weather's not been our friend, so I had to hop on my boat's in the shop, so I had to hop on a bigger boat that could handle it. So I forced Eric, I was supposed to have a charter, but I forced Eric to just take me instead. So we sent it across the bay and gave it a shot. It seemed like the morning we went, I'm not sure why we went. It was quite windy, but I think we had just missed the bite. We decided to run all the way across the bay. So that was a late start for us. And I think the fish were there because I think of what, Eric, 30 seconds into setting lines out.
Oh my God, we got absolutely dumped.
Yep.
We had 2 rods in the water.
Yeah, 2 rods of our 14. 2 rods in the water.
First
Eric,
rod went.
Yep, first rod. Eric had it in his hand, and we just missed it. We had a case of, I don't know if you want to call it rubber hooks or our eels were too big or, you could dial it down to a few things.
don't like eating our bait.
Yeah, who knows really? It's tough to say with that type of thing. Obviously bump trolling eels, but yeah, the bite was pretty hot in the morning. I know quite a few boats caught fish, and I think we were just a bit late, but the fish are definitely there. I think it's time to pay attention to it a little more for sure.
You mentioned the weather was not your friend. So which day
Yeah.
did you guys actually go over there? Because we had a couple of days where it was really windy recently.
Yeah. Eric, I can't even remember which day was it?
It was Sunday.
Sunday. Yep, that was right. Yep, Sunday. We went. It was northeast it had to be at least 20.
Oh, so you
At
guys
least.
Yeah.
you just took it on the nose the entire way across.
Yep,
Yeah.
we took advantage of Eric's curtains and that contender that can get after it, and
Yeah, we put the tabs all the way down and just sat back and really thanked the whoever invented vinyl curtains.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's old Mike and Dan over there at Mike's Marine Curtains if you're interested. But man, so you got over there, you saw some fish. I mean,
Mhm.
talk us through. You mentioned bump trolling, and those that are listening might have never heard that terminology before. What
Mhm.
is bump trolling?
Well, essentially, and Eric, you can also chime in if I make it sound a little too confusing. But essentially, the way I look at it when you're trolling planer boards for striper, depending on where you want to be and how the current's working, the wind's working, which it wasn't in our favor that day. We fought it all day, you know, the wind offsetting us with the current and stuff like that. But if you think about rolling with the current, what Eric would be doing on Sunday would be essentially letting the boat in neutral and drifting, so as much as the current's letting us go and just using his throttles every now and then to kind of keep the planer boards in tandem, keep them all good because, you have 14 rods out at a time and just kind of keep your course down those channel banks and those drop offs.
Mm.
So it's really just kind of letting the boat do the work, let the current take you and every now and then you just bumping it in and out of gear just to keep everything straight. That's the simplest way I can think to explain it.
As somebody who gets a little seasick, that sounds terrifying on a 20 mile an hour northeast day.
It was
And
not
it
what we
wasn't
thought it was going to be over
just
there.
20 mile an hour. We had definitely about an hour and a half of 30.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. But yeah, that's bump trolling. And even with the current, you're probably using your throttles a little bit more or not with it, against it. You're using your throttles a little bit more, but you're just trying to keep it moving so you're not sitting still. And you will see days like Eric and I saw that day. There were a couple boats as we were going with current, there were other boats trying to go up current and it looked like they were anchored. They're just not moving.
Mm.
So there's definitely ways you can attack it. You want to be moving, obviously. You want to be going with the current. I would say that would be my opinion, just because you can cover more water that way. Otherwise, you're just fighting it all day. But yeah, just using the boat throttles to your advantage, not staying in gear the whole time at all.
Yeah, and you talked about 14 rods out, which to me just sounds like a lot to pay attention to. So
Yeah.
obviously you got to have a capable captain to make sure that the boat is, bump trolling in the right direction, right speed, and then somebody else to be keeping an eye on all those rods. Are all 14 set up on planers, or do you do different things in the water column?
That specific day, it all kind of depends.
We were just trying to make plans work.
Yeah, whatever you can make work. We assumed it was going to be calm over there, so we went over there, planning. I think we even planned to set out more. But if you got a nice day and you have the planers and all that stuff, what we did and would have done was I think we had one bobber out and the rest were planers, something along those lines. But it just depends how the weather is and how much you want to deal with. Obviously, like you said, how capable the captain is, how capable the mate is. Because if there's any type of chop or something like that, you can constantly run into issues like planer boards tripping, all kinds of stuff, big tangles, which, I've been doing it for a pretty decent amount of time. Eric's been doing it for a long time, and he can tell you it took on a day like the day we went. It even for us, it took probably an hour and a half to get settled in. Just planer trip, planer trip, stuff like that. It can be tough, but on the nice days, it's pretty easy.
And, Eric, you can probably help out with this. A planer board tripping, those that don't know what a planer board is, it's effectively this, device that like has a sort of slide on it, if you will, right? And
A
then
piece of metal with a piece of foam on it with an arm that holds it out at an angle so it pulls it away from the boat.
It's essentially an outrigger without having outriggers, is the way
Okay.
I look at it. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Because those are actually what I'm thinking about your typical like diving planer. These are actually designed where they pull out to the sides and widen
Yeah,
the spread.
they'll
Yep,
stay
yep.
on
They
top.
widen the spread. Yep, just like literally just like an outrigger, but you know you can fish as many planers as you have. You can fish that many planers
Got it. Okay.
On a nice day.
on a nice day. Yeah.
And in order to keep that spread wider, so like I'm just going to go with like round numbers. So we got, let's say 10 rods. So we got
Mhm.
5 on each side, and
Yep.
each one has a planer that's pulling it out to a different distance in order to
Correct.
like create sort of a flying V formation. Is it
Yep.
essentially kind of like your long and short riggers where you would let your first one out like the furthest and
Hmm.
then stagger them in?
Correct. Yep. Just
Okay,
like that. Yep.
got it. And then the challenge being when they trip, then you're in a weird situation because you're trying to crank one in. It's in the middle of like 6 or 7 others, and
Yeah.
therein are your tangles.
Them tripping, you know, in rough weather, and even sometimes when a fish hits, because when a fish hits your planers, what it's designed to do is when it trips, it's going to come, you know, to the center of your transom versus where all of your other planers are. But obviously, the fish have a mind of their own. They don't care where the planers are. So ideally, when a fish bites, it's going to trip and come to the center, and then you can fight it and leave everything out as long as you're going straight.
Got it.
So that's the goal, but you know that definitely does not always happen. So it can get hectic quick.
Got it. Yeah, it sounds like it. And then you mentioned eels. Is that you guys are using eels for all of your bait?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Eric, he's kind of one of those guys that loves to try a bunch of random stuff. I think on Sunday I heard him talk about tons of baits. I mean, they're striper. I'm sure you could get him to eat bunkers or mullet, you know, whatever you wanted.
We still saw ribbonfish jumping out of the water on
Yeah.
our whole way up there.
Forgot about that. Yeah, we saw seagulls pulling ribbonfish out of the water, and they're eating all of that. But eels easy to get. They're effective. They're hardy creatures, so you know it's I guess it's more bang for your buck rather than having to catch bait or anything like that. Just throw the eels on; they work.
If Austin Hayne was on right now, he'd be like, "They're the most miserable creatures that God ever created. I hate
They
those things so much."
they are horrible,
When
but
they
they
eel
work.
ball, it's the worst
At
ever. And
least
then they
when it's
leave that.
cold out, at least when it's cold out, they're a little slower. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's their only godsend to being eels.
And I
So
actually learned a trick. I did this a couple striper seasons ago. Trey Ritter's uncle, Tom, or not Tom, Lawrence Ritter.
uh-huh.
He used to bring a bucket of sand on the boat when we would fish with eels. And if you take your eel out of the live well and you're about to hook it, if you drop that eel in sand, it's like if you put salt on a slug. They just stop moving.
What?
And you hook them, and as soon as you throw them in the water and that sand gets off of them, they're back to normal. It's the craziest thing I ever seen. He taught me it. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I don't know why I don't still do it, but I'm telling you, it works. It's just like putting salt on a slug. They just lock up.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
Yep,
So
that's a little trick. There you go.
that's a unique trick. I'm curious to know. You mentioned about stripers will eat different things. I know you've been fishing for them for several years, and Eric, you've been fishing a few years longer. What's one of the stranger or more unique things that you've ever had a large striper hit as a bait?
I've caught one on a cob mullet, and I've also caught one on a ribbonfish before. God, that's really about it. I mean, we caught one on a small tog when I was younger.
That's
There you
it.
go.
Tog fishing on over the tube, and one ate it.
Oh wow.
I'll do you one better because it's bluefin season. Last year we caught one on a Joe shoot.
Oh yeah. You know what? I do remember last year when everybody was out there trolling, you'd hear somebody yell that they were hooked up, and everyone got excited on the radio, and then like 30 seconds later, it's like, oh, it's a striper.
Yeah,
But
it was crazy. You see, I wasn't bluefin fishing. We were up in Exmoor, off what Rappahannock Light, so way up there, past 42, and we were catching fish really good. And the guy mating for me that day was like, "Dude, I have a Joe shoot. Should we try it?" And I was like, "I don't care. I think these guys have caught the fish they want. You can put one out on the short planer
just to
if you
see.
want, just to see." There were no chance of bluefins, obviously, and sure as heck, it probably wasn't. But 10 minutes later, he goes, "Oh my god." This fish just
Fish
ate
on.
a Joe shoot. Yeah. Which I guess now that you bring it up, it makes sense because you catch stripers bycatch when you're bluefin fishing.
Right.
But because we were so far up the bay, I was kind of flabbergasted that it happened. But
Well, and you make a good point because when I think about like the bluefin fishing, the trolling speed is pretty slow. It's like 3 to 3.5 miles an hour, which is a little bit above bump trolling, obviously, but it's kind of in that general speed where, a striper moseying along sees something that is moving and looks like a bait fish that, they're going to get after it.
Yeah.
Do you have to have a bunch of special rods and reels for these stripler, or are you tied up to, spinning rods, TLD 15s? Like, what's the kind of like ideal striper rod in your opinion?
Eric would definitely say something with a backbone because
Yeah.
he was giving me some crap for some of my stuff. But I don't know. Eric can probably elaborate on that. I will say, even being a guide, when you're trolling that many rods, and
Everything gets
unless
used.
yeah, you just use what you have. I mean, unless you're one of the guys who that is what you do as striper fish.
Right.
Like Clinton Lassard's a great example. We were talking about his setup. He's got everything color matched. Everything matches rods, reels. But in my opinion, man, you're fishing so many rods. Use what you got.
Yeah.
Just something conventional is obviously the easiest. And I think Eric's right. Yeah, definitely something with some backbones. Some type of conventional with a backbone rod.
Yeah, some 20 to 30 pound typical stand up rod usually.
Okay.
Uh,
Are you fishing braid to your leader material?
No, not usually. We try
Not
to
if you
switch
can
to
help it.
mono.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a big change up from like most of the fishing I do. You're typically on braid, so you guys are using mono. Is that for the sake of like the
It's for the
stretch?
it's for
Yep.
the planer, like the actual quick clips to the planer. They were
Mhm.
designed for mono, and they do not like braids unless you got like 100 pound braid.
Got
Yeah.
it. Okay, so it just literally the clip just can't even
It
grip.
won't hold
It,
it.
it won't grip it, and I also honestly I think if you can avoid braid too, there's some. I just feel like with braid not having the stretch like you mentioned, Luke. If you hit a swell or something with those planers, it really is just a not a very heavy clip. So the smallest little change in that when it's dropping off a swell or something like that can trip that planer. So with
Got it.
mono, just that little bit of stretch, I feel like it helps.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Definitely,
And
definitely.
obviously these fish are that you're targeting these trophy fish. We're not able to harvest those right now, correct?
Correct.
No.
Right, and that's because they're federally protected. In fact, I think I saw an article that somebody posted in the Lower Chesapeake Bay Fishing Report group. It was a neat article. I'm going to go find it real quick, talking about some of the news release coming from the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission, talking about the Atlantic Striped Bass Board meeting, and I think that was just held on the 16th. So I'll be interested to kind of see what the follow up was from that. I don't know if either of you are familiar with that. Do you guys know what that one was about?
I didn't even read it, to be honest with you.
I didn't read it much. I don't even want to say it on this podcast because I know a lot of people listen to it. I've heard like murmurs about like why it's just like anything else. Why people think it's a good representation of what's going on or it's a horrible one. Yeah, kind of like Eric. I've glanced over it, but I don't know enough to be able to speak on it.
I gotcha. Yeah, no
I know
worries.
it's low. That's what they say. But
Got it. Got it. Okay. And it was another article that I saw too that was kind of explaining, and Captain Robbie talked about it last time, just how like the snow melt is affecting the spawn and this, that, and the other. So, anyways, I don't think any of us are subject matter experts to speak to it, but it's definitely worth looking into and reading to just get a little bit more educated on. It was an interesting thing to me to just hear
yeah,
about how those other environmental things not in the water affect what's going on in the water as far as like the snow melt creating current that's helping those eggs to get the proper amount of flow to be able to thrive. So anyways, something to pay attention to going into the future. But meanwhile, we're able to target them, do catch and release, and
yeah,
and get a picture with. I mean, they're truly incredible. Like if you've ever caught a 20-inch striped bass, to picture that thing blown up 40 times that size is crazy until you're actually holding one and like feeling its
yeah,
gigantic
yeah.
mouth and lips. I mean, they're amazing creatures.
It's an amazing fishery.
Yeah.
And it takes a true angler. There's no doubt. Just the time of year, how cold it is, the conditions you got to deal with. I think that's the coolest thing about it. You don't get like your typical vacationers that are just there for a sightseeing tour. You normally get some people who are really dedicated to it and are
Hmm.
interested in it. So it just makes it all the more fun because you normally get people who are as into fishing as you are. So
Yeah.
it definitely makes it cool.
Truly passionate. Well, guys,
Yeah.
we're gonna wrap up, and just want to say thanks, Captain Caleb, for sharing a little bit about your recent trip. Captain Eric, what are you doing there in the background? You got some big old steaks on the grill.
Yeah, man. Trying to cook dinner and
You know,
do
I,
this
I
podcast.
I shouldn't
Talk
have
about
scheduled
bread.
this. Yeah, I shouldn't have scheduled this around dinner time because I'm really jonesing for that steak that you got there. So
The
might
best
just have.
part about it is Caleb's sitting at work, so
Yeah,
yeah,
Caleb
that's
went.
topping everything.
Caleb went bluefin this morning, and then he's back at work. And he's got a young kid at home he's got to go tend to. So you're gonna be tired by the time the lights go out tonight.
Oh, I know the second I get home, wife's going to hand her over and say, it's your turn now. So I'm in for the long haul tonight. Go get me a Red Bull. I'll be all right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, if folks want to get up with you and book a trip to go target these striped bass, what's the best way for them to contact you?
They can get me. The best way to get me is definitely on Instagram or my phone number. My Instagram is Naughty Dog Fishing. It's NAUTI. And then phone number 757-641-9199.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it very much, Captain Caleb. Captain Eric, thanks for joining us for the chat. And
Yeah,
you
thanks,
guys
Eric.
Yeah, man, no problem. I love it.
just teasing us with ribeyes in the background the whole time.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, well, folks, that's going to wrap up a cool conversation talking about striped bass here in the Chesapeake Bay. Stick around for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with you real soon. It's time we talked about catching some serious savings. Imagine harnessing the power of the sun to cut your energy bills and having a roof that's built to last. Convert Solar and Roofing specializes in top-notch solar installations and durable roofing solutions that stand up to the toughest elements. Their solar panels are designed to maximize efficiency, and their roofs are built with premium materials to ensure long-lasting protection. Whether you're out on the water or at home, their expert team ensures you're covered. As fellow anglers in the Lower Chesapeake Bay, the team at Convert Solar and Roofing cares about both sustainable living and sustainable fishing. So reel in those savings today and visit www.convert-solar.com or call 757-44-SOLAR. Make your energy and roof as reliable as your favorite fishing lure. Call Convert Solar and Roofing today. Pure Flat Slick Lures are tried, true, and guide approved. Slick lures catch big speckled trout, redfish, flounder, and more. You can cast them a mile, and they produce a highly erratic bait fish imitation with a twitching retrieve. The tournament-winning Slick has helped many anglers set personal best records. Whether you're fishing the OG Slick, the smaller profile Slick Junior, or the versatile Lil Slick, one is sure to find that unforgettable thump we're all after. Visit your local tackle retailer or pureflats.com for your favorite color and rigging combination. Go sling some slicks today. You can't catch them on the sofa. All right, fishermen and fisherwomen, it's time to dive into inshore fishing. So we're going to talk to one of our favorite captains to chat with on the show about inshore fishing. Captain Eric Myers aboard Heads and Tails. Welcome back to the show, Cap. How we doing?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
Good, man. It's been one of those unusually warm days. I walked outside around 10 o'clock and felt like it was like an early spring day. Nice and warm, crisp, sunny air. What's that doing to the fishing?
Dude, you can see through the fog. It's pretty good.
That's awesome.
I mean, still plenty of fish up shallow.
Mm-hmm.
Sight fishing's still really good. And there's a lot of other opportunities fishing right now too.
Very cool. I'm interested in hearing about the inshore fishing inside of the Lynnhaven. Last week we talked with Captain Travis Kemp from Foolproof, and he was talking about some of the deep water trout fishing in the Elizabeth. Are you seeing similar things like that in the Lynnhaven right now, where as these temperature changes start to swing hard, where we've got these, little bit, warmer days and then these cold evenings, is it changing the patterning or the locations of where those speckled trout are at?
Yeah, but Lynnhaven, because it has so much current and not as deep of water as, like, let's say the Elizabeth River, and the water's not as dark, so it's not retaining a lot of heat. It's pretty much hot and cold as fast as the temperature changes outside.
Okay.
So typically those fish aren't moving as far. They're basically stuck next to how we target them, is fishing next to any deep holes. The flat pretty much adjacent to it will have trout, redfish.
Very cool. And we got to get out there recently and chase some speckled trout and some striper. And man, I struck out hard. I couldn't figure it out. I guess I was not paying attention to the instructions very well. But your buddy caught a really nice striper, and that was awesome to see. Right off a dock, the one that I was snagged on.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you just gotta get snagged and let the other person catch the fish,
Yeah, although what was interesting is what we snagged. So if I remember correctly, I casted over the dock, and then I thought I was snagged, and it ended up being like a 20-inch mullet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you snagged a freaking cob mullet on the other side of a dock
I thought
in the dark.
Yep.
All I'm hearing from the back of the boat is, I don't know what I got, but I'm hooked onto something. I have a fish.
I thought it was a big old speckled trout. I was so excited. I jumped up on that dock. I don't know whose it was. It was, danced down the dock, got unhooked, came back around, jumped back on the boat. We had it right by the side of the boat and realized it was a mullet, so we let it go. But anyways, for our listeners who are just tuning in and maybe have never heard your voice before, so Heads and Tails is a full service charter. You've got a big bay boat, your 2-foot contender,
31-foot contender.
31-foot contender, which is bay and beyond, and then inshore you've got the
21-foot bay boat. It's a Sea Fox center console right now, and we're upgrading that as we speak.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
we just upgraded it. We just put the trolling motor on it. What are we doing now?
well, now we're going in a completely different direction. So we'll have a bigger skiff to actually be able to take more than 3 people comfortably. We'll actually be able to take a group of 6 or a dad and all of his kids this time instead of not having to pick and choose, because on a 21, 22-foot center console, it is close quarters at its best.
Yes, I can attest to that.
Yeah.
Trying to dance around the console or step on one side and feel like you might just, go on in. Yeah. So, but either way, when is that boat coming online?
We are waiting for everything to get settled right now. So hopefully middle of next year.
Okay.
Hopefully sometime before our spring fishing kicks off in March, April time.
Awesome.
We should have it about then.
And it's interesting to hear this, because when you told it to me the first time, my mouth dropped. Like the number of hours on that Suzuki 175. What are we at right now?
It's funny you say that, because it's over 10,000. It's 11,000 some change.
Goodness gracious, that's crazy.
That motor has just never let me down. I don't think I've ever canceled a trip due to that boat breaking down ever.
I can't believe you just said that out loud, but I hear you. I'm knocking on wood for you. My desk is solid wood.
That motor could blow up tomorrow, and that thing's doesn't owe me $1. Doesn't owe me 50 cents.
True that. Well, talk me through some of your recent inshore trips. So we're in the Lynnhaven. What species are we targeting right now?
So most of all we're doing right now is getting the trout and the redfish, being that it's been on the chillier side most of the last 2 weeks or so. We've had a couple warm days. We've kind of knocked back on the night fishing, sadly, but when we have done it, a few night trips, so we caught a few nice rockfish, a lot of nice speckled trout.
Mm-hmm. And those speckled trout, I've been out with you a couple times, and I've tried to go myself a few times, and I've really been trying to listen to some of the tips that you've given and apply them in specifics, really paying attention to the tide and trying to get out there towards like the end of a moving tide and to try to catch that and then be ready with like the right, jig heads to be able to bump up or down and wait. And then, just kind of really focus on being in the right area with the right tide and not worry so much about having 17 different colors, but really just, the right, weight and the right time. So for those listeners tuning in, like remind us in the Lynnhaven, when we're targeting speckled trout, what's our kind of ideal tide cycle to be in? And then concurrently, jig head size and lure of choice.
It's hard because everybody's going to say something different to that.
Well, what works for you?
Every time I have a charter step on the boat, it's always going to be a 1/4 ounce, like trout eye, Z-Man jig head.
Okay.
With I think they're 4-inch paddlers, the real long, skinny paddle tail.
Okay. Yep.
Or a jerk shad.
Jerk shad. That's right. That's what I've seen a lot of the times on your boat. And obviously we can run over there to Long Bay Point and grab those there. Connie and his team and Brady will have those for us. And those 1/4 ounce jig heads, if we think of a tide cycle where, slack low, slack high, we basically don't have water moving. And then, during the max, I don't know what the right word is for when the tide's moving its fastest. What's the right word for that? Ebb? I don't know.
Yeah, max ebb.
Max ebb.
Max
sure.
flood.
Really fast water. When the water's moving really fast, does a 1/4 ounce still do the job, or do you have to go up and wait?
So typically with charters, we normally will go up on weight. We'll fish a 3/8. That way they can feel some bottom without getting completely snagged.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what you're doing and you're really comfortable with it, you can stay with a 1/4 ounce to fish those 7 to 10 foot banks and holes and stuff. But typically we're all 3/8 ounce, those Z-Man torpedo jig heads.
Okay.
or headlock jig heads.
Gotcha. And then, working one of those, I'm typically a little bit impatient. And I know that with winter speckled trout fishing, you kind of have to slow down a little bit. Talk me through like making a cast and retrieving it. What's the right thing? Like, what's the right mindset to have around that to actually try to get a bite? Because I think that's why I'm really terrible at speckled trout fishing, because I'm rushing it every single time. I'm like, hurry up and get a bite.
If you think you're fishing it slow enough, fish it slower.
Okay.
That's the easiest way to think about it. And if you think you're doing too much, you definitely are.
Okay.
Most of the time, it's usually like just a dead stick bait. That's why we use stuff with smaller paddle tails or no paddle tails at all. That way, you're not influenced by seeing the jig have movement. Like in your mind, that jig's not doing anything either way
Okay.
unless you jig it.
That makes sense. So are we really letting it, like for speckled trout, are we letting it go all the way to the bottom and then starting to just give it, a little bit of animation and then just wait?
Yeah, the twitch, pause, and the pause can be. I tell people to start at 3 seconds, and then every other cast switch it up 5 seconds, 10 seconds between twitches.
Mm-hmm.
And once you figure out how long the cadence needs to be for the fish you're chasing, it's you can really start dialing in on them.
That makes sense. And then, to be able to feel that, I know you've got a couple different rods, and I remember the last time we went out, you kind of had a rod tied up and ready to go with each type of lure. I think you had a couple of jig rods, you had a topwater rod, you had a pop and cork rod. Are there any that I'm forgetting that you had pre-tied up?
The Miradines.
The mirror lures, that's right, mirror dines. So, okay, so I want to kind of like put on the right side in my mind. I've got my top water plug, I got my pop and cork, I got my mirror dine, and I got my, jigs with my, Z-Man, either jerk shad or paddle tail. I'm out there in the Lynnhaven. Maybe I've gone like past Broad Bay into like Linkhorn Bay down close to like the Cavalier, and I'm fishing some like skinnier water. What's going to be like in order? Like, what are you going to throw first until you start to see if there's fish there?
So this time of year, I would just go ahead and get rid of the popping cork and the top water.
Okay.
Typically, unless something drastic happens, those don't usually get tied on this time of year.
Okay.
But we back there in like Linkhorn and stuff where the water's a little bit deeper and slower, you can get away with I'd usually start with a Miradine, like one of the slow sinking ones instead of the heavy dines.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean just painfully slow. Just twitch, wait, twitch, wait. I mean, I explain it to people. Go ahead and twitch, and then check something on your phone. Scroll Facebook for a second, and then give it another twitch.
Yeah. That's tough for most people. I mean, that day that we went, we got back into that one little honey hole, and it was like almost every cast on the drop they were hitting it, but those were some much smaller trout and some much warmer water. So you're talking about deep, slow water where it's a little bit cooler. We got to just be like extremely patient on that retrieve and just wait for that bite. And then when they do bite, are you swinging hard and fast? Are you giving it a pause, almost like a flounder bite? Like, what's your typical hook set approach?
It all depends on how hard that fish hits it, but typically I tell people hook sets are free.
Right.
I highly recommend swinging hard.
Okay.
The drags are super light on the trout stuff this time of year,
Mm-hmm.
so typically you're not going to jerk it out of their mouth if they do have it really well.
Okay.
Which is usually what most people don't do.
Mm.
I feel like.
Yeah. And, talking about loose drags, so braid and leader material, are you using fluorocarbon, and about what pound test do you like to use?
For the leaders?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a diehard, like 20-pound test guy.
Okay.
I mean, for us, it doesn't seem to make a difference. I've had guys on my boat tie 15, 10-pound, and we still catch the same amount of fish with 20. It's just what you're comfortable with. And a lot of times I'm fishing areas with both redfish and trout, so it gives me just a little bit more turning power in case like they get up in a dock or something, or you're fishing next to an oyster bed to turn. The redfish right now, they're all thick fish, so
Yeah, those couple that we caught, I mean, they pull so hard in contrast to like an equal sized speckled trout. Although we were catching like 28, 29 inch, puppy drum we caught a 28, 29 speckled trout, I'd probably pee my pants, but with excitement. But, is there a time where if you observe that like the water's gotten really, really clear because it's been just like the right weather for a period of time, will you lighten up that leader material just as a precaution, or do you just still not that worried about it?
Honestly, I'm not that worried about it.
Okay.
Like I said, it's the most versatile one I've found. It's not heavy enough to where I really think it would make a huge difference,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the charter aspect, because a lot of times they're bail flips, and it's just a precaution for me to not launch $15 mirror lures and plugs and stuff right off the rods. Because a lot of times with anything 15 pound and under, I mean, I have seen some mirrodines go sailing.
Oh gosh, I can only imagine. I think I threw one of them as, as well too that day. But it's a ton of fun. And what's cool is like these days like today where the weather kind of just, takes a turn for the slightly warmer. It's a great opportunity to get out there and explore all of the inland waterways of the Lynnhaven and get hooked. So, folks that are tuning in, they're like, man, I want to get out there and, get a chance to hook into some of these speckled trout or redfish. What's the best way for them to contact you and Heads and Tails and get booked for a trip?
They can either call me on my cell phone, or they can just reach out to the Valley Pro account.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's the Valley Pro is the website for Heads and Tails. We'll drop that in the show notes. And then what's that cell phone number?
757-573-9569.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate that very much. It was cool to hear, last time we were fishing together, some folks from Canada were visiting Virginia Beach and wanted to get out there and go fishing with you. So it's just neat to see the reach from the show.
That was super cool. They brought it up. They're like, "Have you ever heard of the show? We heard you on it." And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Yeah, we're from Quebec." I was
Quebec.
like, "Right on, right on."
That's cool. I mean, sometimes we forget how incredible the place we live in to have so much fishing available to us right here in our backyard. For someone from Quebec, that's just like, oh my gosh, I got to get out there and catch a fish. To us, it's like the everyday thing, but to them, it's like this awesome, awesome treat. So excited to see what comes as these temperatures continue to dip. I know those trout are going to slow down, but folks, give that phone number a call or find them on the website in the show notes and get booked with Captain Merrick Myers. Captain Merrick, thanks for being on the show. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, folks, stick around. Let's hear a quick word from one of our gracious sponsors that makes these things free for us each week to tune into. We'll be right back with you soon. Tired of battling salt corrosion on your boat, trailer, and reels? Meet Salt's Gone, your ultimate solution. This powerful, instantly acting chelating agent tackles salt and brine with ease, featuring corrosion inhibitors to protect against future damage and surfactants for a thorough clean. Salt's Gone is pH neutral, making it safe for all boat materials: metal, glass, paint, vinyl wraps, and more. Highly concentrated, just 1 gallon creates 100 gallons of ready-to-use solution. Apply it with or without running water. It's perfect for any situation. Use code GreatDays10 to save 10% at saltsgone.com. Or if you need faster delivery, use Amazon or your favorite retailer. Sam Rust Seafood, your locally trusted source for premium wholesale seafood. Servicing customers from Hampton Roads down through the Outer Banks, Richmond, and surrounding areas, including Fredericksburg, Charlottesville, and Lynchburg for over 80 years. Committed to the highest standards in the industry, Sam Rust distributes the best of the ocean directly to your restaurant, hotel, or grocery store on time and at a great price. Visit samrust.com to discover how quality, tradition, and sustainability come together. So don't cuss, call Sam Rust. Hi, guys. Welcome to What Did You Learn? I'm going to kind of go through like a speed round of some of the key tips that I picked up on from each report this week. So talking to Captain Bill, I'd say the 2 things that really stood out to me was, number 1, don't be afraid to trust your gut. If you're feeling something, I need to make a move. I need to go faster. I need to go slower. Maybe I need to put these baits back further. I don't think there's going to be anything wrong with trusting your gut and just, making it happen. And then number 2, I would say, given that this is such a unique fishery and a really, expensive gear-wise to get into, if you're not set up and have all the experience in the world, I'd say the other key takeaway is, just go book a trip, go get on board with Captain Bill or some of our other great captains and get out there and experience the joy of catching one of these bluefins or the chance to with one of those guys. Moving on to striped bass, it's definitely clear to me that you've got to have a lot of rods and reels. That, and then making sure that you've got mono, so that those planer boards are working properly for you. And then finally on the speckled trout, just being ready to change up those lure weights on the blink of an eye, get that right fluorocarbon, that 15 to 20 pound, and then make sure that you've got some nice, jerk shads and diesel minnows, so that you're able to present those baits. And I would say the one really important takeaway I heard was slow it down. So anyways, some really cool stuff learned this week. I'm excited to find out what Captain Bill gets price per pound for those guys, and then we'll be ready to rock and roll from there. You guys have a great weekend. I'm sure we'll try to put something together next week, but if we don't talk to you before, have a very Merry Christmas, and we'll talk to you soon. Cheers. Did you know every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack or stroke? In that moment, every second counts, and every critical decision matters. Air Medcare Network's air ambulance providers can provide life-saving care directly to those in need at a moment's notice. With 320 locations across 38 states, they're the largest air ambulance membership network. Rest assured, they've got you and your entire household covered. Membership is just $99 a year or just $79 for seniors. Visit gdo.deals/airmedcare to enroll. So that's going to wrap it up this week. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember, to get your free AFTCO Camo Sunglasses Cleaning Cloth, just text the acronym LCBFR to 779-345-2918 to get your promo code and be added to our email list so we can send you the new show each week. You guys keep whacking them and be safe out there.